What's up, gamers? My name is Sean, and today, while our last few days of Atomic Picnic are live for the playtest, I wanted to go through a build which is kind of your standard build. It's your standard shoot gun, get bullets build, and this one is going to focus on not necessarily using your grenade, your device. While it is my favorite in this one, I wanted to just focus on getting as many possible shots off with kind of minimal effort. I wanted the groups of enemies to be easily dispensed of. I will say that there is one part of this build I didn't use, and that is the minigun item. It's not one of my favorites to use with this. It's very usable for grenade launcher, even shotgun. I could probably hear some arguments for sniper as well, but I don't necessarily like using it with fast-paced items just because I wanted this build to be sort of ease of use. The charge up of it can be a bit much, especially when you're constantly trying to just pick up crystals and destroy crystals. Also, if enemies are spawning and they do spawn fast at times, it's not necessarily the most fun thing to wait for that charge up. So if I can make any influence on your choices, I would say don't pick that one with a weapon like this, but I wanted it to be the all-rounder build that works in all situations and does enough damage to where even if it's a heavier enemy, we have enough additional fires, additional shots that are going off that it does just as much damage and clears just as much with very little effort. So in this build, what are the main ones that we use? That is Archer's Keychain and the Slugger build, which fires the secondary shot. So in this, you have two main things that are proccing, as it were, and you get the secondary sort of a laser beam shot, as well as arrows that shoot in the general direction. They do have some follow in that they'll pretty much hit anything as long as in a frontal cone in front of you. But the thing that makes this build really optimal is the additional benefits you can buy, sort of the in-game store, where you can unlock additional fire rates, magazine size, damage, etc. I'll let you choose as far as which ones you think are the most important, but for me, higher proc chance for basically more arrows, more secondary shots are the most important. And then I added in magazine size and fire rates because I thought more fire rate, meaning the faster you're shooting, meaning the faster these are going off, and then higher magazine size, showing that if you have things like empowered shot, which buff the bullets in your magazine as long as you fast reload, it's just making it where these are going off constantly and you have to reload less while doing it. I don't necessarily think the fire rate is necessary, but faster shooting is just fun. It's fun to do, but you can definitely prioritize damage for higher base damage, and there's nothing wrong with that. And easily doing the other benefits, which is like a curio update to see if you want to get these a little bit higher than what they were. I did pick up the pan, which gives you basically quicker fire rate or a higher max damage as long as you hold down fire. Holding down fire is something that you'll do pretty much in any firefight in this game because they do spawn quickly and all around you, so that's quite normal. Another additional one that's a pretty obvious one is the alarm, giving crit damage, and then as you go along, higher proccing for those. So that's why proc chance is probably my favorite one in this, just because you want those happening constantly. You want the additional arrow volleys, the secondary shots. You want all of that to proc as quickly as you can. So you can definitely explore around with this as far as what does the best, but proc chance is probably my favorite to grab. And oddly enough, if you like clearing out masses of enemies. The Lover's Nail is not too bad either with additional pierce. I usually use this with weapons like the grenade launcher or the sniper, just because they can. Well, I guess not the grenade launcher. More in the sense the sniper, because you're only shooting one shot at a time. I don't think there's anything wrong with grabbing it in other builds as well. It's just not a priority item that I grab myself. Something that is hard to tell, and something that I hope that does get improved over time, is the empowered shot. It's honestly hard to tell if your magazine is being buffed with your active reload, if it's super temporary, just because it fades away so quickly when you reload. And you may see it happen here a couple times where it'll pop up a box under my current ammunition in my magazine. It's really hard to tell if it's actually empowering the shot. I've been using it though, and I've seen it used a lot of places. It's just hard to visually tell it's happening. Additionally, Gomu Gum is another one that I do like as well. It's great for flying enemies and the smaller enemies that are a bit more spread out, because having that little explosion makes it a little easier to hit additional enemies, especially when you're using single fire weapons like the sniper. Of course, with this, the crits aren't super high in this case, but I haven't maxed out my base damage. That's probably why. That damage would apply to my additional abilities and skills that I'm picking up as well, but I wanted more in a sense, I wanted the procs to happen more than anything else. So you don't always get to pick which items pop up the most for you, but this one, in this case, it's really about just minimal effort, but also a really great amount of fire happening all around you. So, and it turns out in a fantastic way with this one. And it's kind of the all-rounder build that you start out with, but with really so much more potential, just because you add a little bit more proc chance on top of everything else, and it makes it really optimal. One of the last things here that I wanted to mention on top of everything else was the character itself, Bonnie. This is something that's like I personally have been standing on that I'm like, I wanted to be excited about the character because unlocking it did take a while. Dodging 50 attacks was harder. It took longer than I expected. But the motion on Bonnie was not necessarily my favorite. It wasn't necessarily as fluid as I thought it should be. The way the ears flow, oddly enough, is very opposite of how she's running. How she runs is sort of like up, down, up, down, up, down. By the way, it's very like static and very jumpy. I hope later on it has a little bit more flow to it, to where she doesn't seem like she's running around so, like, I don't know, so jagged. It's just very sharp. I hope it flows more, or like she's like running on roller skates. I think should be like the idea, versus like the sharp jumping. It just became super distracting. I ended up changing my character back to another character because they were much more flowing whenever it was used. But I can't tell if things are final, because the way the character looks in the portrait art versus in game is different. So maybe it's not final. I know a lot of things aren't final. So that was just like one grief I had with the character Bonnie. But otherwise, all the characters are very enjoyable. They have different builds, and I hope that means different classes too. But sort of like Vampire Survivors, where you pick and they have like one ability that kind of makes them unique. So I hope they have something like that added into the game. It would be cool to see on top of everything else. So finishing grabbing up most of these abilities. I think the only ability I get in this run is basically the reload, shock everyone around you item. It's actually not a bad item at all. That and Walkie Pod oddly enough, do a great amount of additional damage. Something that contributes to your max damage that I didn't realize before is that certain enemies will die just to other things exploding, and you're not necessarily getting that damage totaled into your total. So having like little AoE damage in a build is not a bad idea. In this case, it was just picked up because there was no other option in this case, but I ended up choosing that one because it actually had a unique like a unique ability that I could just do damage passively. So I've done builds before where the build doesn't focus on using your weapon at all, and I think the variety in some of these items, I hope we get some more because there are some great ones. Maybe based off of if you're using your device, if you're using your dashes, or if you're using weapons. Something that I'm hoping for in the near future with this game, something that I really like so far, is the game plays really well in a multiplayer setting. I know this is not the first co-op roguelite. A lot of people have some skepticism about it being sort of just a cash grab. Something that's been really reassuring in this game is the amount of developer involvement. With this playtest, there's been a lot of active Discord community members, and they've been really keen on people not just submitting their videos or streaming it, but just people playing the game and giving their feedback. So it's like showing those totals and showing those numbers and giving back those DPS breakdowns to the community has been one of their focus points that I think has been really great. They've been great about receiving and taking feedback, and so my personal list of what I hope to be added to the game, like I've mentioned before, are classes. I hope there's a sort of each character has their own unique ability that adds some flair to it, and then additionally, I hope they add like maybe endless modes and leaderboards as well. I think that those two possibilities would give people to explore like how far can they go, and how far can you max it. I think the highest crits I've gone whenever I'm trying to max out damage is like 1080, which is insane. And I think that was with the sniper rifle. And some of the fastest runs that I've done are in like the teens of minutes, which is a lot more challenging than you think. So challenge modes, quests, leaderboards, stuff like that. There's just a lot of possibilities that I think could be added to add to the longevity of this game. And then the one that I might be alone in, but I think could work as well, is sort of the Helldivers mentality, which is a PvP or a multiplayer PvP, but still focusing on the PvE aspect. So basically who can complete this first, who complete theirs first with a little bit of PvP elements in it. So I think that's one of the other things that I think would be great potential for this game. This game has a great feel for a multiplayer game that I think people would enjoy doing. And I think that with that potential, there's a lot of promise with this game. I know a lot of people thinking that OTK is putting up a cash grab, but I think that there's so many things and so much potential with this game. And so I hope you give it a shot. I hope you've enjoyed the playtest so far. If you've liked the build and the builds that I'm doing, or you maybe have some suggestions, send them my way, and I'd love to make a video on them, maybe on the next playtest or whenever they released more content available, and just kind of do some research into that. So as you can see in the final bits here, the DPS doesn't look crazy, but you can see there's so much additional damage going on. For example, Archer's Keychain doing 100k damage, which is actually insane. So that's all I got for this build. If you'd like to give it a like and subscribe to the page. Thank you.